to bring in someone who can give us some more information about what exactly we can glean from this. Danny Karon, an attorney, defense attorney, is joining us this morning. Danny, thank you so much for being with us. I want to start with, in this case, the closing arguments in the trial. Of course, they wrapped up yesterday. The prosecutor says the defense attorney's arguments were, quote, unfair. Which arguments do you think will really affect the jury's decision in this case?
Well, good to see you guys again. And the only argument that matters for both sides is whether Hunter Biden was a user and an addict when he bought the gun, period. Every single word, every single witness, every single document during the entire trial went toward either proving that point or disproving that point. Now, the prosecution was able to prove that he was an addict before he bought the gun. He was an addict after he bought the gun, but not when he bought the gun. Which gap, the defense says, the jury can infer, he might not have been. How can you know? There's doubt there. But the question is whether that doubt is reasonable. The standard is reasonable doubt, not just any doubt. And it's the defendant's job to sow doubt that's reasonable, that's sensible, that derives from jurors' common sense. And the prosecutors will say, you know what? That doubt doesn't.
Interesting. Okay, so Danny, what evidence do you think is the most critical in this case?
Well, easily the book. The book, hands down. The book, Beautiful Things, Hunter Biden's memoir, is like hearing from the dead with the guy sitting right there. Now, Hunter Biden took the fifth. He didn't testify, but he basically did testify because everything in his book made it into evidence that the prosecution read. Now, the book was intended, I suspect, a story of triumph from addiction to recovery. It was supposed to be a harrowing tale of redemption. But, he never expected it would be used against him for the potential to put him in jail for up to 25 years. Boy, did that turn around on him. That, to my mind, was the most important, most key evidence that came out in the trial.
Well, Danny, we know that Hunter Biden has had a lot of support in the courtroom. His family there, including the First Lady, they've joined him for those proceedings. Prosecutors have pointed out the reactions of the family members are not evidence. So what have their reactions been like that is prompting the prosecution to even go so far as to make this statement that they are not evidence? Do they really think that their reactions could have an impact on the jury?
Well, that doesn't mean the jury's not going to consider the reactions. Sure, they're not evidence, but boy, every person, everything they said, everywhere they sat, everything they wore was, I know it, perfectly and specifically choreographed by the defense to create more uncertainty and more sympathy for Hunter Biden. Now, it's not evidence. They didn't say a word, but that doesn't mean the jury's not going to look into the gallery and say, oh my God, that's a wonderful family. What great support he has. As well, he should. I'm not denying him that. Everybody deserves to have their family show up. But boy, it was used to the maximum advantage for the purpose, I believe, of encouraging quietly, secretly, the possibility of jury nullification.
Yeah, that's the next question, Danny. We've been talking about that quite a bit around Morning on Merritt Street. Let's talk about jury nullification. Is it on the table for this case?
Boy, it's on the table big time. Now, it's not explicitly on the table, but you can't deny it. Jury nullification is where a jury takes the facts as gleaned from the witnesses and ignores them, takes the law as instructed by the judge and ignores it, and enters its own verdict or version of what it thinks ought to be the verdict because they have a social agenda. They want to send a message. They don't think the law is fair or just. They think it's a know-nothing crime. Big deal. Leave the guy alone. He's got a loving family. Who wouldn't have gone into drugs after having suffered the deaths of his mother, his sister, his brother? Good Lord. That's not evidence, but at the same time, it could affect the juror's decision. And the thing is, jury nullification occurs in secret because that's where the juror's deliberations occur. So the judge and the counsel will never know. And the thing is, unlike a civil verdict that's for the defendant, which can be flipped on what's called a judgment notwithstanding the verdict, here the judge can't flip it. It would violate the Fifth Amendment. If the jury comes back with a finding of not guilty and it was based on jury nullification, which we'll never know, that verdict stands.
Wow.
Quite the wild card.
It's a big wild card. A lot to consider here. Thank you for your insight this morning, defense attorney Danny Karon. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Always happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay.